England.
We've conquered all of Europe. We're never gonna stop. From Palestine to Turkey, we've won the fucking lot. But Paisley and the Shankly, the fields of Anfield gold. We are unsupported, and we come from Liverpool.
G'day everybody and welcome to this week's edition of the Match Debate. This is the post-Manchester City match debate. Sounds funny every single time. I can't get over it. Post-Manchester City. Us here in Australia would have watched it, was it last? No, 24 hours. No, last night. Would have been this morning. 2:30 in the morning for the Aussies, all those down under. It was a 2-2 draw. I'm not sure how many people would have maybe called a draw, would have been happy with it. Kind of like the Chelsea game where you kind of take a result, then you see the game. You can even see this game in stages. Like at halftime, you'd probably take a draw. And then by full time, you're sitting there going, ugh. I'll start with you, Pete. By the way, g'day, Pete. G'day, Jimmy. And g'day, Nick. All of us here, all four of us here on the Match Debate. Pete, what were your first impressions of the game?
First half was absolutely shit. I think it almost like the boys just absolutely kind of crap their pants a little bit. And I hate match debating angry because I always get hurt. But it's something that the first half was. Yeah, I would have taken a draw during the first half, and then second half was a lot more positive. I think we changed tactically a couple of things that we'll get into later on, but I think that overall, yeah, you take a draw against Manchester City most times if it was offered, because a lot of the times it does have its say in the title. But this is why I brought up last week in our show why the draw against Brentford was so frustrating. Because you knew that Manchester City is coming up. And you know what? If we had lost to Manchester City today, you kind of cop it on the chin because they're the best team in the world. They're the favourites for the title and the rest of it. $1 billion squad, la-da-da. So that's why for me, the Brentford game is still haunting me because it's 2 games in a row we've dropped points from leading positions.
It's interesting what you say there about the first half performance. I want to get straight into something that was interesting. Now, it's only because I have this incredible technology available to me. I can see my phone's contents on the screen. I'm going to put those up, and I'm probably going to block myself, but I don't care about myself, so who cares about my head? But this was actually, for all of you guys who can watch on a full screen, if you don't have a full screen open, enlarge your screen now, zoom in. This is after 30 minutes. This is the performance of one of our midfielders, Jordan Henderson, our captain, our fearless leader. He's been a great servant for the club, obviously, but even the captain can have some dull days. Jimmy, what are your thoughts on these numbers? I mean, he's only hitting half his passes. He lost possession 11 times in the first 30 minutes. This just kind of sums up the first half performance, and that's probably why I said I would have taken a draw at halftime. It's why Pete has echoed the sentiments of the first half was nowhere near good enough.
Yeah, it's the wrong side of leading by example, I think, on that one, which is very frustrating. But it pretty much epitomises Liverpool's overall performance in that first half. Jordan Henderson was actually just one of many who put in a frustrating performance in that first 45 minutes. You could probably look at most other stats of the other players and see the exact same thing. There was just, for the occasion, for where we were playing, for what it meant, it wasn't anything that anyone would have been expecting from this Liverpool side. After last week's 3-3 draw with Brentford, after that midweek pump up again against Porto, who I think are sick of us by a country mile. It's not what we expected coming into this one. Second half, lots of improvements, but unfortunately, that's not the position you want to be improving from. But we walk away with a point. Is it a point earned? Is it a point saved? And we'll get stuck into that in a little bit, I'm sure.
Yeah, I want to ask you that, Nick, as we get that put up on the on the screen there, and I want to ask you guys in the comments for those who are joining us, trickling in as the match debate has started. For all you guys, thanks for match debating with us. We'll all do it together. We'll feel better at the end. Nick, what is it to you? Because I mean, if I was to just give my 2 cents, I don't want to influence your opinion here. In all of Jurgen Klopp's, and we actually got a comment here saying that people think that it's gained. I would probably agree with that. In all of Jurgen Klopp's career here at Liverpool, and this is me putting the red tinted sunglasses on, I'm being a top red here. He always gains points for me, and yeah, it's. I think it just keeps us unbeaten. I think the first half was really poor. Second half, a bit of heavy punching from both sides. I think we gained a point here. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll definitely say so. But if you want to base it on the first half at least, if football was a game of only 145-minute half, we were absolutely rubbish and we should have absolutely been pumped in that first half and lost. Because that performance, I've never seen that from a Liverpool team before. This particular Liverpool squad anyways, like we've seen it with Hodgson and, in some instances maybe under Rodgers, after some certain players had left. But this was just, it looked like we had no idea what we were doing. We looked so out of sorts. We had no idea of what we would do with the ball once we received it. We didn't know where our players were. We're doing, hit and hopes. We're just hoping someone gets at the end of something. But the way City set up, it just stopped us being able to pass the ball out. And they were getting to every single 50-50. Now, in the second half, you can say, okay, that's where we actually turned it up because we get a steal, a breakaway goal, great finish from Mane, and then you just see us starting to really start putting pressure on, and City, then they start to sort of falter. Then it's like, okay, well, our ball's over the top. They're not reaching their destination targets, and let me just say, Edison, as much as he looks like a James Bond villain, that guy's feet, like he can just pinpoint targets left, right, and center, and he was just smacking more often than not Foden on that left wing. But then based on the full-time score, 2-2, we could have won it. They could have won it. I think on the basis of play, if you really want to look at it, you probably argue that City maybe should have won the game. But look, we're Liverpool fans. We're always going to look with the tinted glasses, and we'll say, you know what, we probably, me personally, I say we escaped that. Fabinho probably should have done better on that open goal chance, but it's easier said than done. And I think it is gained rather than lost because we were in all sorts for that match.
Yeah, I just want to go back to what Chris said here. At the end of the day, we didn't play well and still got a 2-2 draw. Even when leading twice, we were sloppy. I think City should kick themselves more, in my opinion, especially when they were far better in the first half. It's kind of weird. Yeah, I mean, we do lead 2 times. Am I right in saying that, Pete? We lead through Mane, we lead through Salah. So that's correct, where it starts to feel like points lost. I know you're the type. I mean, being a perfectionist and a coach yourself, you're probably the type to think if you're ahead, it tends to feel like points lost. But we also struggled in the midfield department. Can you, as I kind of move the conversation over to our midfield struggles, what do you reckon was the major failure of that midfield? Was it something tactical from Klopp? Or is it just they were flat? It was individually they weren't up for it, or were Manchester City were they just thwarting our midfield?
Well, when you look at it, Manchester City almost played with a total of 5 midfielders further up the park. So they played their midfield 3, and 2 of their front 3 are generally midfielders with Phil Foden and Grealish. So already outnumbered 5-3 pretty much in midfield and the way they play, but the most frustrating part out of our midfield performance was their inability to find space to get on the ball. And that's one thing that for me absolutely hindered us, especially in the first half. There was no player really looking to try to get in between the spaces. I think they were standing still a lot of the time, especially you mentioned Henderson a bit earlier. I think that performance of him, it was almost like it was the first time he's ever played kind of performance where he was jumping in, receiving the ball back to goal, not turning on the half, like which we've seen Thiago do so well, Gini Wijnaldum and all those technically superior players. But it was very static in midfield. And we brought up on the training ground, for those who had watched it, we spoke actually about the midfield battle being key. And I think even though we ended up with the draw, we definitely lost that battle with midfield.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say there about Henderson not being able to turn. Now, he's not as adept at it as Curtis Jones or Thiago or some of our other maybe more agile players, but he does he does get the ball and turn, and he's kind of it reminds me a bit of Andy Robertson needs paddock. He doesn't turn quickly in and out of spaces, Pete. Could a lot of that of our midfield troubles just be down to Manchester City kind of just playing better than us? Do we just have to hold our hands up and just say, I mean, you did say it, they had 5 midfielders compared to our 3.
Yeah, I just think, but when it came to the 1v1 battles, we lost them too. So I just felt like if you're going to lose by being outnumbered, especially in the middle of the park, I get that. But when the 1v1 battles aren't even going our way, I think the middle of the park for us, we have this tendency to let the opposition get behind us in terms of the spaces between us and our centre backs. And I think that there again on the weekend was quite evident, especially down the right-hand side where at the moment it looks like that's everyone's favourite side to go and attack. And just quickly on that point, which is funny, against Brentford, Trent was the whipping boy. You know what I mean? Trent, it was easy to point the finger at Trent. But now there was no Trent, obviously, versus City, which we missed, by the way. But so the thing is, again, they attacked us down the right side. So my question is, now that there's no Trent to point the finger at, because that's the fun thing to do at the moment, where do you point the fingers then?
It's interesting because we looked interesting down the right, especially Salah just looked. That's interesting from Jericho there. Henderson looked his age. Mo Salah played incredibly, especially in the second half. It looked like things started to click into gear on the right hand side. Jimmy, I just wanted to ask you what your thoughts were on the movement, I guess, or what was going on down that right-hand side, especially because we've got Milner coming in at right back. We're usually going down our left. What were your impressions on what happened down that right-hand side? What do you think could have improved from the players that were there? Maybe even from Henderson. Is there anything that he could have done that could have maybe dug himself out of that hole?
Yeah, there was a lot of focus on that right-hand side. I feel that the left probably took a bit of a rest because they were probably very wary of Kyle Walker making those breaks going forward. So wanting to protect that, having a look at the other side. James Milner, naturally being a more inclined, further forward player, obviously going forward and seeing the opportunity when he could. And he got plenty of opportunities on that right-hand side, but the problem was we left ourselves completely exposed every single time. Usually, obviously, we see it a lot more on the left-hand side, but usually when we see that attacking move from one of our fullbacks, there's always someone ready to drop in and give that coverage. It just wasn't there at all. There was a complete lack of organisation to be honest, from the midfield in general that we saw. I feel Fabinho didn't have his best of games either. I feel Curtis Jones took a while to grow into the game. So across the board, there wasn't really much being offered at all. A lot back to what Pete was saying around what our midfield was not doing, to be honest. It just when we were pushing forward, I feel like we were almost trying too much to do things on that right hand side, and that was becoming very obvious. And then that was becoming very easy for Manchester City to exploit. I lost count the amount of times they took full advantage going down that right hand side with Phil Foden and Cancelo pushing forward as well. It's something that we've talked about. It's not just the fullback thing. Obviously, I know Trent's been taking a lot of flack for it. I'll put my hands up and say I initially was calling Trent out for the Brentford game, but on review, you clearly see that it's a lot more of a team problem than an individual problem, and unfortunately, it seems that's still continuing right now.
I want to throw this one back at you, and I want to hear what you think about this as well, Nick. Was there any other way, Jimmy, that you would have approached the game from the start? Is that the lineup you expected? Is there something that tactically maybe Klopp didn't get right at the start, do you think?
It is the lineup I was expecting, 100%. I just think the way that we went about our business wasn't what we should be doing. I think we probably afforded Manchester City way too much time and space and opportunity. And when you're playing a world-class side like that, as much as you want to attack and do what Liverpool do best, you also have to respect what you're up against. And some of those Manchester City players, in fact, most of those Manchester City players are world-class opposition, and you don't need to give them too much for them to take advantage. And I feel we were trying to do too much of something that wasn't there. And I think we were very lucky to not actually go in a goal or two down at half-time with the attacks that they took on that right-hand side.
There was something that... Oh, sorry, go on, Pete.
No, so if I may, even what Klopp said in his press conference about, I don't know what the boys, we didn't keep the ball enough, we didn't move the ball enough, and it kind of, we're doing things that we didn't practice or we didn't speak about. And it comes down to what Jimmy was saying and what you said earlier, George. we'd get the ball, and all of a sudden, for example, Henderson at that time in particular did it the most, where it was just like an aimless kick into an area. And it's something that we against Manchester City, because they keep the ball for so long and they're so good at doing it, by the way, when we have the ball, you need to keep it for a little bit to give us a breather as well, because we're such a high-paced, aggressive kind of side that we're literally hitting red levels, during matches, like sprints, pressing, chasing, runs. Everything's always off the ball, on the ball. We're constantly a running side. So when we have the ball, we do need to keep it at times. And there were moments during that game where we finally get the ball off them, and it's just a big funk, like lofted kick into no man's land. It's like we literally just got the ball off them, and now they've got it for another 15 minutes. And I think you want to talk about players missing as much as we miss Trent. I think Thiago, for me, there was a huge hole shaped there in his name.
It's interesting here. I just want to go back to some of the comments here. Obviously here, Henderson looking his age, I think it's just one of those games for him. I think he, deserves a bit of a break. He's done a lot more for us than just, a poor half. And obviously everybody makes amends because the second half is a lot better. And as we saw in the stats for those who were here, I mean, the possession is 50-50 by the end of the game. So Liverpool must get their foot on the ball in the second half, and we'll talk about that. I like this as well, telling that Matip was providing the forward attacks. I mean, that was kind of something that we were like relying on. I think it's also telling that, not telling, but it's a kind of a serendipitous moment that Virgil van Dijk was going on about Joel Matip's dribbling in the week. They were doing all their FIFA ratings. He's like, man, Joel Matip has to be 99 dribbling, man, 99 dribbling. So it's interesting that he's our main attacking threat going forward. And then there's this interesting comment here, this idea of Tsimikas to cover left back and right back. It's really interesting. Nobody ever plays left back. Has anyone ever heard of a left-footed right back? Anyone? No? Never happens. I wonder if I don't know if we'd ever try it. And apparently, did someone say that they saw Tsimikas playing right back for Greece? Has anyone ever seen that happen?
No,
I
haven't seen that. I watched their past 4 or 5 qualifying matches, and he's played left back every single time. It's Robertson who's been playing right back for Scotland.
Oh, Robertson, that's the one. Sorry, that's the one.
Yeah.
All right. So if that's the case, then would you say, look, Milner at 36 or 35 or however old he is now, and I think we'll talk about him because there was probably one of the main reasons why that City played the way they did against us in that first half anyways. And that second half before Pep, lost his plot again at Anfield. The guy just, every time he comes to Anfield, just put the burners on it because he's going to start cooking every single time he comes here. But should we start looking at maybe playing Robertson at right back and Tsimikas at left back if we're looking at actual left backs who can attack and play that fullback role? Because as good as Milner is, as a professional that he is, I think Klopp there's a lot of trust in Milner, but what we saw on 18 hours ago, whatever it was, 15, what time difference, I don't give a crap. Wherever we saw like in the early hours of the morning on this public holiday in Australia, that was like hey man, I need another favor from you. And Milner's probably tallied up so many favors from me. Like Milner now has the card where you go to get a coffee and it's like you get a stamp and then the last one's free. So like, I need another favor. Okay, click, and another favor, click. So, you got to say to yourself, okay, what's Milner going to ask for sooner rather than later? Surely there's got to be a way where we can play someone in an actual position that fits their mold, whether they be left foot or right foot. Because if you can rotate midfielders around, you should be able to rotate as well right backs and full backs. And it might work better in their favor because they can cut in and they can even have some pops at goal, perhaps.
I just on this comment of the fullbacks, what are you guys' thoughts on playing Gomez there? I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty sure Trent comes back as the international break, comes
He's
around.
back for Watford. Yeah,
he's back for Watford, so I don't think we have to worry about it. But in this scenario, maybe I'll go to you first, Pete. You and me hate Joe Gomez at right back. We hate it because we think that he's.
Thank God you finished that sentence.
Out of context, Red Sea Down Under.
We hate, no, but it's also because it's a different style of defending. You're going into challenges. You're not holding off. There's a lot more strain on your hamstrings. We see Joe Gomez always, kind of picking up injuries there, but especially the way in which we're getting targeted at fullback, it's pace in behind, which Gomez has, and it's balls to the far post that are challenging shorter-ish players who aren't as good in the air. Trent's, I think, 5'10". He's not the smallest. He's not like, tiny or anything, but still, he's a fullback. traditionally not as good in the air. I mean, despite all of my anti-Gomez fullback sentiments, I would want to see him at fullback. If anything, I don't want to see him necessarily replace Trent, but maybe he's an option when teams start to do something like this. And we've talked about this. Can Klopp just tweak it so that if people have found a way to just, target an area, surely they've got weaknesses elsewhere. And if we can kind of tweak the way that we play, maybe we can punish them for focusing on that.
I mean, firstly, I think Gems is new to us. We haven't seen her on another show, so if you're new, welcome, and I hope you're enjoying the show so far. But it's the Gomez one's interesting, and I think that comes down to who we play. So with Foden playing as the winger in that match, or Grealish, I think Gomez could have started and dealt with that fine, because the key for City's wingers is to stay wide to allow the underlaps and the movement for rotations. And I think Gomez can deal with that because he deals with similar situations at centre back between strikers' movements and midfielders running on, and so he kind of deals with that in the middle of the park. Where I wouldn't want Gomez as a fullback is when he's going up against, for example, a real direct winger, someone who wants to stand you up, go 1v1. Like, so against Sterling, he has struggled in the past v Sterling and those types of wingers, so to speak, in that kind of situation where they just stand you up and they want to go at you the whole match. Manchester City didn't play with somebody that does that. They have this free flowing. They want to move in and out, and they want to try somehow get centrally behind our midfielders, which we saw, a numerous amount of times in the game. So I think Trent, to be fair, Gomez to start that game, I actually would have been against it. Excuse me, just on that note. But it's funny, Nico Williams, he's the natural right back in the squad, but yet we never, ever, ever see him. Maybe should we have played him against Porto to test him for half an hour, 40 minutes, whatever. I don't know. That's not my job. But if he's the only natural right back to cover Trent, then why not give him a chance?
Yeah, and as Pete also said, welcome, Gems. I'm not sure if we've seen you here on the in the comments before, but welcome, and we're loving all of your options that you're giving us here for possibilities at fullback. I mean, this idea of Gomez, maybe even Konate, and it's also, I agree, harsh to judge Milner when you were saying this comment here, harsh to judge Milner based against a game against a 20-year-old wonder kid plus Grealish. I mean, I think...
Yeah, but it's a 20-year-old against James Milner. Come on, man.
Yeah. Sorry.
What do you mean, sorry? For what?
There's a million 20-year-olds in the Premier League. So, they're all going to be 20 years old soon. All the up-and-coming guns, against Saka or whoever it's going to be.
Only one James Foden, mate, or Phil Foden. Yeah. Sorry, there's only one Foden, mate. Nah, the whole thing, you would know that they're going to attack that side because Trent's not there. He was the obvious target for us, and you can, and he's still bombing forward. It's I said in our group chat, Milner just needs to sit, let Robertson do attack, but because Milner kept getting caught out, and that's where he ended up getting his yellow card in that first half. That was my thing. I've got no issue with Milner playing most of the time, but when you can see the same things happening and you're getting done every single time, it's a question mark. Okay, maybe I should maybe not go all the way to the touchline. Maybe I should just hold back a little bit.
I want to just, before we go on to the second half, because I just want us to wrap up here on the first half, I think Manchester City were way more impressive in the first half. And I just want to ask you guys, and I want to start with you, Jimmy. We've got Gems here, again in the comments saying give full credit to Silva. In that first half, it was awesome. Was there anybody who stood out for you? Because when we do move into the second half, I want to talk about something that, by the way, now that the game's over, I can officially say, thank goodness this didn't happen. I will get to that, so you guys remind me when we go into the second half. But with regards to the first half, was there anything that particularly impressed you about Manchester City? I mean, things that come to mind are, I thought Silva was good in midfield. We didn't think he would start. I don't think we called him starting in midfield, Pete. Not sure what we said on the training ground. But Foden, obviously, he scores for fun against us. I thought De Bruyne was man of the match for me personally. If it's not Mo Salah, I thought it was Kevin De Bruyne. Any other standouts for you?
I think we've already named them all, to be honest. I think just the way that Manchester City played the game throughout that first half was absolutely, as much as it kills me to say it was great to watch from their perspective. Even the long ball distribution that was coming from the back. We know Ederson in particular has a fantastic set of feet when he goes to clear it most of the time. And I think there was that one ball that he played in that first half that just went right past Milner, and that left Foden one-on-one with Alisson Becker, where he pulled off a fantastic save. But unfortunately for us, whilst Manchester City looked good, we gave them the opportunity to look good as well. I think that's also part and parcel of it. I think if we had actually stepped up a little bit and played to probably a bare minimum benchmark, we probably would have seen a lot less opportunities. But again, full credit to Manchester City for that first half. I'm glad we stepped up to the plate a little bit more when we came out for the second half.
I want to throw this one at you, actually, to anybody who wants to make of this what you will. This is from our Twitter page. This is something that I wrote. It was actually they were closed in on Klopp. This was 23 minutes in, and he just yells. He goes red, and he's got veins popping out. Be brave. And it's interesting that you say, Pete, when you watched the post match comments that Klopp said, he was kind of surprised, and the passes weren't kind of sticking. We didn't keep possession. What does be brave mean? And do you reckon Liverpool did that in the second half? Do you reckon that message got read?
Yeah. So look, they read our message. Look, what that means is
read Klopp's message. I mean, not ours.
No, they did. They screenshot it and sent it to him. I was there. Look, for me, it's very simple. I think when he's screaming "Be brave," I just think that actually just means on the ball, like get on the ball and be brave with the ball. Be brave to hold the ball, be brave to keep the ball, be brave to move the ball, because I've never, ever seen a Liverpool team in a big game that can decide a title nice and early on in the year absolutely shit themselves like that, because it was just like they just didn't want the ball almost in the sake in that first half. And I can't wait to finish talking about the first half, but it's something that, for my interpretation of the "be brave" comment, is purely possession based and with the ball.
So I'll throw this one at you, Nick. What do you think changed in the second half? Now we're in the second half. Liverpool look rejuvenated. Obviously, we do get the first goal, but it does come off the back of a counter, and it's something we actually brought up on the training ground. What I loved about the counter attack, and for those of you who haven't watched the training ground, maybe Gems, we haven't seen you in the comments before. If you have seen haven't seen the training ground, please give it a watch. Or all of you guys in the comments, please give it a watch. But it was something that I did mention. It was this idea of our counter attacking, and I don't think we've been countering well in our games, and especially against teams like Brentford, where they were asking for us to score 7. We're attacking them kind of like, not the flying V. What I love is the flying V, where all the players kind of crisscross. And what we saw was Sadio Mane. I actually called for Salah to make the opposite run, but it was basically just something where one forward runs away. Just drag a player with you. And if they don't drag the player, it means you're free. So Sadio Mane makes the inside run. And that's kind of what creates the space. But it is a counter-attack. Nick, what do you think changed in that second half from your opinion? I mean, it's hard to remember 2:30 in the morning, 1:30 in the morning. Is it just as simple as Liverpool got a goal, or was there something markedly different?
No, it looked like we actually had some balls again in that second half, because we started the first half well. That first 10 minutes was decent for us. We had a couple of runs into the box. Evidently nothing happened, and then City decided to start playing around with the ball. And then second half, whatever Klopp said to them, they come out, and it's like they were almost higher up the pitch in a way, and they sort of like played with some idea in their head. Okay, this is what we're going to do. City are so far up. Did he hear commentators say they had like 4-4-2 at one point, like 4 attackers? And you can see it as well when you're watching the game. When we were defending, even in that first half, you can just see 4 across the front, like a makeshift 4, and then just like who was that centre back? You had Laporte and Diaz, like just sitting centre back. Everyone else was like pumped up forward. So, but that was like with Pep as well. You see, in the first half, they were like back a little bit, and then they went 10-15 meters forward up the pitch, and then that gave us like less room for us to muck around within our back, and that was easier for them to, because they're putting the squeeze on us. I think second half we probably put the squeeze on them, because like, hey, we're going to go up forward. There was a little bit of backwards and forwards, and then because we scored from the counter-attacking position, it was a nice little giveaway. Ball goes over to Fabinho. He's got a little flick over the top, and Salah starts running. Ball goes in, put through to Mane, but it's just getting those little positions there, and trying to think back in my hazy mind. I haven't seen any highlights since then or whatever sit into my brain since, but it just looked like we actually knew what we were doing again. It's like they woke up. It's like they went in halftime, they had their oranges and their biscuits or whatever, and said, okay, I feel better now. Okay, let's go out and play. It's like, guys, you're playing against Man City, someone who has been a rival for the last 3 or 4 seasons, and you're playing at home. Like, show them that you're playing at Anfield. Look, the crowd's back. You don't have to worry about none of the other nonsense we used to have anymore. Go out there, like he says, be brave. Don't be afraid to go out there and do your thing, because we're losing 50-50 challenges. We get the ball, we lose the ball. We get the ball, it's lost, and it's the ball over the top, and Foden's running onto it or something like that. That's what annoyed me in that first half. Second half, we looked like we actually had something that clicked into our heads and said, okay, we know how to play football again.
It's interesting that you say that, because for those of us who can see this the screen here, this is our stats from the first half. Ball possession, they're clearly ahead of us there. You got total shots. Look at that, 7-1, 1-0. This is big, even big chances. Look at that. But then when you go to second half, look at it all kind of switch into Liverpool's way. We get more of the ball, more shots on target, and look at the big chances. I mean, it's funny because they score 2 goals, and it doesn't say that they really had a big chance. It's kind of reminiscent of the types of chances we concede. I was saying this, Pete. We seem to concede easy goals. I think Salah's is not, you wouldn't call it an easy goal, but he scored from a similar position as what Foden did, albeit with his weaker foot. We seem to concede those easy chances, and it's kind of interesting in those stats. You see Man City apparently in the second half do not create a big chance, but they score a couple of goals, and one of them was a deflection. One of them was just felt really easy.
Yeah, look, the deflection goal actually hurts, like really hurts, because Matip, of all people, other than Salah turning into prime Messi, Matip was probably our second best player on the park. And the goal that De Bruyne scores is the easiest save Alisson would have made in the past month. Like, if you literally, it's just traveling nice and easy. He's doing a nice and safe dive. He's all just going to parry it out, and it's routine. You see that at the training, in the inside training, in the LFC videos. Like, it was such a routine standard save that it's so sad that it's Matip who is the one who gets in the way. And if you look at it, being a former defender and having to coach defenders, if you look at the two between Van Dijk and Matip, Van Dijk's the one who's doing what you're meant to: stand still, hands behind your back, and just cop it if it hurts. Unlucky, it doesn't go in. Then you look at Matip, and he's the one who's like doing this weird, awkward, like trying to get in his way to block the shot. But it's just like,
it's no context. It's no context Matip stuff.
I get what he's trying to do, and he's doing the right thing. He's trying to get in the way to block it. But if you watch it again, he actually travels across Alisson's line of sight to try and block it. And that's something that, you generally try and teach to avoid. But then again, you can't, it's the moment of the match, and it's against Manchester City. And, he thinks he wants to do the right thing and block the shot, which he did. Unfortunately, it ended up going in. And that's something that, someone, for me, who was our second man of the match, if you can call it that, he didn't deserve that, especially the season he's having so far.
Well, you're talking about them scoring shitty goals. It's a deflection. There's no doubt about the goals that we scored, and there's only one man at the center of all of that. It's the main man. It's Mo Salah. Jimmy, you were talking about it leading into the game. You've been on a bit of a mission here, saying that this man is the best player in the world right now. Let's just have a chat about Mo Salah. You guys in the comments, tell us what you think about Mohamed Salah. We might even have a chat about this situation surrounding his contract. I thought of so many different ways to put this tweet out, by the way, and I will get to you, Jimmy. But this idea of, do we just keep him pining for his contract? It seems to be working wonders. I mean, he is playing out of his skin. He's really trying to prove himself. And we know in the first season at Liverpool, he said, I'm trying to prove myself as I'm not this Chelsea failure. When Mo Salah has something to prove, he's an absolutely dead set on that mission. But Jimmy, do you reckon he's the best player in the world at the moment?
If you look at current form, I think there's no argument, to be honest. I think Mo Salah is definitely in form, the most valuable, the best player on the planet right now. He has been absolutely phenomenal. The way I look at it, right? When Mo Salah came in, he came in, he banged, 40 goals in his first season, and everyone's talking about this one season wonder. He follows it up the next season, another phenomenal season. 3 seasons, he does the exact same thing. Last season is the first season where, all right, there's no, well, I mean, there was obviously other seasons where he didn't get any trophies with the club. Last season, obviously, no trophies, but still, another phenomenal season. And this season, it's just continued like he never stopped playing football. And every year, he just seems to add something more to his game, just so that he can perfect what he needs to do. When he first played when he played in his first season, you said, yeah, he scored 40 goals, but he put 80 shots into the Annie Road stand. But now he's a lot more calculated with what he does on the pitch. He's a lot stronger. He keeps his balance. He really thinks about what he's going to do next. He brings players in so well. He's so crucial. And he proved it in that second half. In that first half, he was really shut out of the game quite a lot by Manchester City. But in that second half, he just came alive. He really managed to link up fantastically. His turn of pace, his breaks forward. And that is, I mean, the assist on its own was absolutely fantastic with that run, that 40-yard run after that passing play deep in our own half. But that goal, it's a shame that goal wasn't a winner, because we'll be talking about that kind of goal for a long time otherwise.
Yeah, I loved how it's funny because if I'm not mistaken, I feel like we're at 0-0 and Salah tries to get past Cancelo, and it's actually, he receives the ball. It could be from Jota or maybe Jones. He receives the ball out wide, and you think, this is now him. He's up against his defender, and he just runs into him. But what I notice, and I don't know if we can get footage of it, probably not. But if you notice, you guys go back to the game, he just at the last second changes direction, and it just doesn't work. And I remember thinking, that's a way he can get past his players. It felt like a new way, but he didn't do it. But then the assist comes and it works. Then the goal comes and it works. I mean, at 29, you don't think players are going to be learning new things. Nick, I don't know if we've seen a way in which, because me and Pete lament the way in which maybe Mo Salah doesn't beat enough players, with his pace or with the skill that he's got. We love his futsal style close control in the box. But we saw him skipping past defenders today. And again, I'm just going to say it again, Mo Salah, best player on the planet.
Yeah, find me someone else who does what he does on a consistent basis. I mean, even this season in the Premier League, he's got on average, I think, about 4 shots per game in the Premier League. He's got himself 6 goals so far, 3 assists. And
he's tracking back, Nick, by the way. This comment just here very quickly. I just want to add this to all of the repertoire that you're saying. I mean, he's also tactically, defensively, positionally fantastic. But go on.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, when he's going forward now, he's much better. Like James was saying, like, he was skying 80 shots into the Anfield Road and Cop End, but now he's sort of much more composed and much more measured when it comes to his shots on goal. The only thing he can improve on is his free kicks, which I know is everyone's favourite when it comes to Mo Salah. His free kicks really do need some work. We do need someone to take over free kick duty when Trent isn't on the pitch, and that's probably another issue.
And corner duty.
We haven't had. And corner as well. Well, we have a Greek player on the bench, apparently.
Fuck.
Do you guys remember Mo Salah on corners? He had got a few assists when he was taking corners. Have you guys, are we against Salah taking corners? Or I thought he was quite
I'm
good.
not. Anybody other than Nuno and Robbo.
I said free kicks. I just said nothing about corners and Salah.
No,
right?
I know, but yeah, no. I never said you said the corner thing, but I'm remembering now that, like, maybe we should be putting him on corner duty as well. I mean, we saw it 2 years ago, but haven't since.
Maybe. I mean, it could be an option depending on who else you're going to target. I mean, if they're not on corners, you have to realize, okay, if the person not taking the corner, what's their role going to be on the pitch? Because we've seen Salah score goals from our corners taken with the Tsimikas corners, especially when it was knocked down and he's at the back post and he's firing in, inside post on that sort of occasion there. But I mean, for all Salah, he can be the most frustrating, but he can also be the best. And when I say the most frustrating, it's not frustrating as though this guy's absolute rubbish. It's frustrating where, why did you do that extra thing when all you had to do was this and you've got yourself a goal? Like against Brentford, he's gone for the dink over the top instead of like just side footing it past the goalkeeper. Like that's what I say. He can be frustrating, but the guy is class. And that goal had shades of Tottenham Hotspur a couple of seasons ago. And again, another game we probably could have won 2-1, and we ended up drawing last kick of the game because they went up, I think it was 1-0, and then we ended up scoring, and then he scores that like 90th minute, and then they get a bullshit penalty in the 95th minute or whatever it was. But same thing, same corner, same end of Anfield on the Anfield Road end. He's gone 1, 2, 3, and then bang, inside past the post. And I actually thought Edison maybe could have done a little bit better because it was with his right foot, and we know Salah likes to use his left a lot. But hey, man, we've got someone who's scoring, ridiculous amounts of goals non-stop. As I said, he's already got 6 in the Premier League so far. He's got 3 in the Champions League, and he's also got a couple for Egypt this season as well. So he's had 16 appearances in total. He's got 11 goals. So that's not a bad return if you ask me.
Just on Salah's, the last time he scored a goal or the assist is very similar to that goal he scored against Arsenal. Do you remember when he just absolutely done David Luiz on the side there?
Yeah,
and
great.
You remember that game there? That's the last time we saw something like that there. And that's something that, look, I tweeted it earlier. I think I'd turn around and say, I think that's Salah's best ever goal for Liverpool Football Club. I think that's his best ever goal. And then something else that we tweeted on our page was, when do we start talking about the Ballon d'Or if he does this all year? Because honest to God, there's no one else in world football right now doing what he's doing. So at what point do we start mentioning him in that Ballon d'Or race?
One thing that I wanted to also, his goal is very similar to, this was a goal I was present for at Anfield, very much like his Napoli goal. Remember, he's on his right foot, and kind of like we're quite harsh on him for not using his right foot, but he's quietly got a few interesting finishes with his right foot. I want to ask you this as well, Pete, because we are talking about him with Ballon d'Or, and I think the answer to that is, when do we start talking about that? Well, he's got to be doing this the entire season, which he looks like is knock on wood. Hopefully he can keep doing it. Even if he does something half of these levels, just keeps chipping in with 1 or 2 goals, I think, and Liverpool wins something, I think he'll be nailed on to be at least in the conversation. But what is it that do you think, because we haven't seen this goal in a while, we've seen him not beating players. Is it positioning? It's weird. I call him a number 9 at right wing, and he's so much wider this season. It's very interesting that all of us have been talking about, we want to see Salah more central, and just shows you how much we know compared to Jurgen Klopp. He feels like he's playing him wider than ever. And Sadio Mane, Mane literally came over to his side to score his goal. So, it's Mane that's playing way more central, which I don't know how many of us saw that. But what does Salah need to do, Pete, do you think, technically, with the way he's playing, to keep performances like that up? He was skipping past players. Is it as simple as City are more front foot, there's more gaps, so he's obviously going to get more of a chance to skip past you on the counter? Can he do this against a low block side for us?
You know what's funny? We talk about what can Salah do more. I actually think it's what can the team do more for Salah. So I look at it the other way, because Salah is, most of the time in attacking the right positions. He gets himself in good positions to score goals in attacking third. I think that we've seen, and we mentioned in the training ground, many times, that Mane is the one who rotates with the 9, whether it's Firmino, whether it's Jota, whether it's, and then also with the left-sided midfielder. There's a nice little triangle there that works for us. And we actually didn't go to that enough during Manchester City, in my opinion. We didn't use that side enough. But I think what Salah can do more to make him better, I think the team has to do more to help Salah. I think that right side of the midfield needs to somehow help him relieve the pressure. I think that, with Trent playing, it obviously helps Salah get on the ball a bit more. But I just feel like, Salah is doing all he can. And, it shows. There's not much more he can literally do other than, like we saw, shoot a bit more with the right foot, maybe. And then he scores from it. So it's something that, I don't think he can do much more. I mean, unless we want him to turn into 7 foot as well and score headers. I don't know. But it's something that, I think the team has to do a little bit more to help Salah.
I just want to give a shout out here to Remy, who says, basically echoing the sentence. Not sure if you've been with us the whole time, Remy, but thanks for hopping on. Salah needs to do more of what he did with Man City, as he did with Tottenham a number of years ago. That's something that I was just echoing before. This idea of, we saw him doing these things a few years ago, and then we've seen him trying to do it, as the years have gone by. And, sometimes it comes off, sometimes it doesn't. This season, it seems to be coming off more often than not. Now, the big conversation, like I was saying, surrounding Salah is, what is this, the idea surrounding his contract. Now, I personally, I just wouldn't give him the contract so he can keep playing like this. How much is he worth? We say this every single week. And I think the reason why we can keep asking this question, Jimmy, is because we keep not giving him the contract. And I feel like Liverpool are lowballing. And I tell you what, it's costing them more and more each week, because this guy seems to be going up in value.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think the thing with Mo Salah right now is we're seeing so much more of his individual brilliance, and it's going to get to the point now where you just can't put a price on what he is able to produce. I mean, like you say, it's great for us right now. If he keeps doing this every week before he signs on the dotted line, happy days, winner, winner. But it's going to have to get to the point where we're really going to have to show that we mean business. I've said it a few times before. One of my concerns is if we don't start to tie this one down really soon, and just to say, I pay the man what he wants. I don't care, seriously. But he's the kind of player we need to make sure that we're securing on a good contract, because we need to show what our intentions are, not just today, but also long term as well. We want to make sure that we're still a club that is attracting the right players that are going to allow us to continue to challenge for titles, to be competitive in Europe, everything like that. If we're consistently telling Mo Salah, let's see how you go next week, mate, I don't think that's going to work out too well long term. I'm of the opinion the man doesn't need to prove anything else right now. He's set the bar so high. We just need to say, mate, as long as we can keep you, happy days. What do you want? Because I don't think there's much more that he can do. Like Peter says, unless we want him to, grow a second head or grow an extra couple of feet. The man's absolutely phenomenal. We just need to give him what he deserves. Simple as that.
Do you think, by the way, he signs? Do you think he signs this season? Because he's here until 2023. I mean, that takes us. He's now 29. It's 2 more years essentially. So we've got him till he's 31. I feel like he's the type of player. He feels like he's got the physique of Ronaldo, and he's got the, without being 6'2", whatever Ronaldo is, but he's got the physical capacity, but he's also got the intelligence of Messi. So he can play till he's 34, in my opinion. I think he'll still be a fox in the box. He'll still do his futsal style control in the box. I mean, 31, he's still got 2-3 years left in him. So do you think we tie him up?
100%. I think we still tie him up. 100%. He's the kind of player as well. He's not purely got the attributes for being a right winger either. He's got the attributes that you can utilise across that front line, and depending on what tactical setup Klopp, or God forbid whoever's after Klopp, wants to use, Salah will still be your greatest asset no matter what.
It's funny. Can I just add in there? You know what else Salah has that, in comparison to Ronaldo, Mo Salah has plain shin pads. Doesn't have himself on his shin pads.
And it doesn't wax his eyebrows either. But anyway, that's another story.
All natural, baby.
But the Salah thing is interesting about a lot of people in the comments here and even on Twitter are talking about the pay structure and FSG model. Well, listen, at the end of the day, someone who continuously breaks a record, which seems to be every single week, fuck the structure, give him what he wants. And if the next person wants to come in and say, Salah got this much, we'll say, okay, no problem, break his records and I'll give you the same. You can't.
I like it.
Someone who's broken this many records and continues to do it at such a high level. And as George said, I completely agree with you, George. He can do this for the next 4 years without blinking an eye. Like, I think this is his peak now, and I think his peak will last for at least 3 years, consistently. And then when he drops off, you know what, George, and as Jimmy just said about tactical changes. Who says he can't play as a 9 or a 10, even going down the track? I think he definitely can because he's super smart.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, go on, Nick.
No, that's what I was going to say. Like, we always see players later on in their
Ronaldo done it, right?
Yeah. So started off on the wing, and then now he's a striker sort of thing. He'll drop back a little bit. We saw with Gerrard as well. It was box to box, then he couldn't do it anymore. Then he started just spraying passes from deep and letting other players go forward. So we've seen this in the past. It's nothing new. You probably will see a Salah move to a striker role because he's got the instinct. How many times has he gone from the wing, cut inside, and finish from a central position that you'd expect a striker to score from? So he's got that positional prowess about him. And at 29, even at, let's say, we have someone who can take over that right wing position when Mo becomes 31 or 32. Let's say he stays with us for however money we give him. And what Pete said there, I sort of agree. I know we had a conversation some weeks ago now about the pay structure, and Van Dijk's on 220 and Henderson is as well, and what's Salah going to be? And it's like, well, I've got more than the last person and blah, blah, blah. But man, if you're backing up what you say you can and what you're doing, by all means, you're worth the money. Like here are my receipts. Now pay me. You know what I mean? So, but in saying that as well, like with Salah, with the striker's position there, he can probably play that role. He can come into that and be that striker while we have someone else come in, because we haven't played with a striker, like an out-and-out striker. Even our number 9 isn't a number 9. So if Firmino decides to drop into the midfield, Salah could play that forward line. But it's one of those things, like, do we... Then it's like, sort of, do you base your next 3 or 4 years around one player?
And I think it's interesting what you say there about the longevity of Salah. I think we've seen this in the last 2 seasons, where all your idiot merchants that say he's a one-season wonder, I mean, they didn't get what they wanted, because the thing is that they might think they did, because even when Mo Salah is not reaching those heights that we kind of saw him at today, that we saw him at in that first season, we've seen him sporadically in his career. He's always done what he's did against Manchester City, always pops up, like Pete said, breaks records. Despite not performing at his top, we saw it last season. The beginning of last season, everything was about Sadio Mane. Sadio Mane was the genius. Sadio Mane was our savior. At the beginning of the season, remember, I think everyone, and even those performances, it's actually when Mane gets COVID, that's kind of to blame for the whole Aston Villa debacle. Or not to mention they shot and scored every single time that they could, miraculously. But Salah still scores goals, and I think that's the longevity to his career. It's the intelligence. I think we're seeing with Sadio Mane, he's a very intelligent footballer, but it seems like he needs that burst of pace to get past his player, and he's figuring it out on how to. I'm not saying he's slowed down or anything, Sadio Mane, but he's figuring it out how to deal with that. Salah doesn't need to deal with it. We're seeing him perform at these levels, whether he's playing well or is not, and that means that even when if he loses a bit of pace in 3 or 4 years, I think he'll just put himself, instead of running 10 yards, he'll just go stand 10 yards further forward. Instead of beating a player on the wing, he'll just step inside and beat him in the box. And also I love the way he beats players. It's nothing. He doesn't need, like Daniel Sturridge needed his hamstrings to beat a player. Mo Salah just little tap and just, what's that? Is that?
I was just saying, that's funny. That made me laugh. That one was good. Speaking of Sturridge, by the way, where is he?
Yeah, he's actually moved
He's in
to
Australia now.
Yeah. But guys, I just wanted to, as we start to wrap this up a little bit, I just want to look at the overall thoughts of this game in the context of the Premier League, and we can kind of see here the Premier League table. Is that seeable for everybody? Is it better if I do it this way? Is that better? I'm not sure which one's better, but everyone can see their points. Chelsea on top, Liverpool drop out of the top position there. It's still undefeated. There we go. Do you like things? I'm going to call you Do Ya. G'day, Do Ya. Woo, Perth Glory. I'm not sure if you're a Perth Glory fan yourself, but yes, Daniel Sturridge is now down under. But this is what it looks like right now. The usual suspects in the top 4. I don't know. I'm just going to throw this one up to any of you guys. Are we happy with where the situation is right now? I know it's 2 points dropped against Brentford. I know some of us feel a little bit shortchanged against Manchester City. What do we just lost Jimmy there? I think his internet cut out. But I'll throw this one to you, Nick. What are we thinking about how Liverpool are right now? Considering I think we're in an international break right now as well.
Hey, man, if there's one stat I can see right there, it's that fat donut underneath losses, which we haven't lost a game yet, which is nice. We're the only team in the league not to lose the game. That's not to say we're going to go the whole season undefeated. We're probably going to have some slip-ups here and there, but for the meantime, I'm going to take that. And when you look in the context of who we've played so far, we haven't really played... okay, we've played Palace, who we've beat against... Norwich and Brentford, the crazy game there, another crazy game against City. Our next game when we come back will be Watford, and then it's Atletico Madrid, and then after that I think it's Manchester United. So if you look in that aspect, like we've played Chelsea, we've played City, and we've had either 2 points gained or 4 points dropped. The Chelsea game, you probably say we dropped. This one, for me, we've gained, if you ask me, in the City. I'd probably say that's probably going to be the top 4. You probably have a question mark between maybe Spurs and United, depending on who's going to be more consistent throughout the season, but I'd probably say that's where it's going to be at. The Chelsea thing, I'm still not 100% about it, but if you look already, we've had 3 draws in our run so far. And we know us and draws in the Premier League, it always comes back to bite us in the end. I think we need to get maximum points, and like we've seen in the past, you cannot afford to drop points when you've got the likes of City and evidently Chelsea now in this season, and it might come down to a points basis once again.
Yeah, Jimmy, now that we've got you back, are you happy with the way that Liverpool have started the season now? I mean, considering now we've played the top, essentially two of the top, the top four, essentially. We can't play ourselves. So of the best teams in the league, we probably played the two best teams in the league. We've drawn against both of them. One was home, one was away. We're kind of happy considering, this is the state of affairs right now.
Yeah, look, I'm sure we'd love to play with ourselves, but that's a different conversation. I think at the moment, if we look at the table and where it is, I think we should be quite happy with where we are. There's still a long way to go. I'm quite happy that we've already played Chelsea and Man City, to be honest, albeit picking up only 2 points at home. Like we say, is it 1 point lost, 1 point gained? It's a bit of a mixed bag at the moment. At the moment, though, like Nick said, we haven't lost the game this season. My only hope is that we don't go in this run where we're dropping silly points where we really shouldn't be. That's my biggest concern. I think as long as we're addressing the certain issues that we've come across so far, and you fellas have discussed in great detail in the training ground as well, I think we should be in good stead going forward. I can still see this one going right down to the wire at the end of the season. It's going to be a very close one between ourselves and Manchester City. I think Chelsea are gonna falter after a while.
Considering this comment here, no, we should not be happy from Remy, as we have not played some of our rivals like Man U, Tottenham, and Arsenal. Pete, considering the state of this table, what are your thoughts? Are you content with what's going on right now? Do you agree with Remy? Should we not be happy?
The Manchester City game, I think if we lose that one, I think that one is the one you forget about, because like I said earlier, I still think they're the favourites. They're the $1 billion squad. They're the reigning champions. No pressure, Pep. I'm not trying to jinx you, or am I? But yeah, like it's just, I think with that one, whatever, like you let that one go. But I look at the home, like as Jimmy said, the home stuff is what's bothering a little bit. Like we got to play these guys again, but away. So you think at home, at home advantage is, it's meant to be, especially at Anfield. It wasn't home advantage, especially the Chelsea game, and that's something that hopefully, I think this year's Premier League is won and lost in the other games. Not so much against the big 4 or 5, whatever. I think that's why I'm still losing sleep over the Brentford game. I think that one is still haunting me for different reasons. It bothers me, yes, even though we've got 0 losses, but we've drawn 3 out of the 7. That's almost 50% draws, like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it won't bother me if we learn from the mistakes in this little 7-game period. If we come against Watford, and especially against Manchester United, who, if they play full strength between Pogba and Bruno, I think if between those two, they love to get those two bombing on from midfield. So if we see the same thing occurring and we're not picking up midfielders, then I'll visit this conversation and say, fuck, like this is stupid now. It's starting to piss me off. But if we learn from these situations and, we come back after this break and we're a different tactical kind of team where we've kind of, righted these wrongs, then who cares? Like, we'll just keep going and go as long as as Salah said in his Instagram post, we're equipped to go for the title. Let's go for it.
I mean, as we say that, we've got this idea of, below par, missing chances, everything. It's really interesting. Look at this just here as I can zoom in. That's those are our goals just there, 17. We are the most prolific side in the Premier League. It's very hard to to believe that we are, missing so many chances, and essentially, we are, essentially the highest scorers in the Premier League. It's interesting. I don't know. That's as far as I would say. By the way, guys, I just want to remind you all, for those of you who are new subscribers or new watchers, if you aren't a subscriber already, please, we're 1 away from 400. So maybe make a new account on Google and then subscribe to us that way.
Tell your friends, man.
Yeah.
Tell your friends what's going on here.
Tell your friends. Tell somebody that's sitting next to you or who is nearby. Show us some love. Give us a like or subscribe. Pump us up the algorithm. We're 1 away from 400. It's a big milestone for us. So please, show us some love. Spread the word about the Red Sea Down Under and the match debate.
George,
we love match debating with all of you.
George, just quickly.
Yes, Pete.
what do you think of this question? Did we get it right in terms of how we on the training ground for the City match?
Well, Remy, there was one thing that I thought that we would do, which was the crisscross counter attack, and we're going to put that up on the on Twitter as well. It's just a way in which I thought we could score. I thought that we would have to beat City with pace. I don't. Both goals I mean, Salah's one essentially comes from him beating half the side. But I just love the first goal. I think that was something that I thought that we could do against them. And I just thought that our front three needed to do something different. And that's what Sadio Mane did. For me, I thought that was a way that we could score. I also think I called 2-1. I thought we would win. We were not too far away from that in terms of the way that the game went. I did not see that first half coming. Although we knew that Manchester City were going to absolutely flood us with midfielders, so I think it's not surprising that we didn't do as well in the midfield battle. But Pete, your whole thing on the training ground was this was going to be won and lost in the midfield, and we nearly lost it in midfield. You envisage that battle happening. So
to continue on that question, Remy. The answer is yes, we did, especially against us. If you look at their first goal with Phil Foden and how it actually started, all you have to do is go back towards the last 20 minutes of that show, and we actually draw triangles for you and how they take its shape and how the way they would move through those spaces. Especially, like I said, the way, the first goal, the way we moved it started from our left, and everyone smashes our right-hand side, and we bring that up, but the goal starts from the left, and we bring that up as well. So were we right about our side of things? Not so much, but were we right about how, Manchester City, how would they hurt us? And yeah, we were. We were pretty much spot on, weren't we, George?
Yeah, I also called our goal, man. I was right. No, I'm just kidding. Can we put an inflation device into my head so that we could just... No, but Pete gets them right every other week. I mean, the training ground...
No, you're right in terms of the way the crisscross was right. I'm more talking about the actual setup that that first half performance actually threw that whole out the window. So yeah.
No, it did. But the one thing that definitely happened was this idea about the midfield, and I think that it was something that you had warned about, which is we had to get that midfield right, and if we didn't, then we were going to get absolutely shown up. And I think that also midfielders bombing on. We see De Bruyne and Foden switching with each other. We saw Bernardo Silva having a great game. I think that, like you said, it was probably more in the way in which City could hurt us. I think we foresaw that what Liverpool could have done. I mean, that second half was kind of chaos. I mean, we did also say that we want them to create a bit of chaos. So maybe I tell you what, as I think about it, I think we may have got it spot on, Remy. So we got to watch the training ground and see how much we got of it right. But guys, I think we might wrap it up there. We might leave it there. Again, for all of you guys watching, listening, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're one away from 400. I don't know if we hit 400 during the match debate. Hopefully we did. We got live coverage.
Still
I'm checking right now.
Still $3.99.
It's still $3.99. Let's try and get 400 in the next 2 minutes, guys, because I do want to. I mean, we actually did go over this, by the way, Remy, very quickly. I think. By the way, you guys think he should have been sent off? Me personally, am I the only person who doesn't think he should have got sent off? No, because Henderson pushes the player towards James Milner. So Milner's... I mean, I think that's what the referee is seeing as well. It's a double foul. You can't give a yellow to a player if the foul has been committed by two players. I mean, Milner's probably... He's left his leg out, but I think it's because Henderson fouls him first. And I wouldn't be surprised if the referee actually calls the foul on Henderson first. That's why he doesn't bother with the Milner yellow.
Yeah, maybe you got a point there. I don't know. I saw it. I thought it was Henderson at first that caused the foul like that, had him fall over. And then when you see Pep's blowing up like a kettle, that's like I said. When it comes to Anfield's like the meat eater 4000. The grill's always on. When he comes, he just cooks. Every time he's on that bench, he just absolutely cooks because nothing goes his way. And he's one to talk about players getting sent off and things like that. I mean, does he think that Kevin De Bruyne should have got sent off in a Champions League match? Like, man, it's football. You're down to the referees now. He saw it. He called it. Yeah, he saw it. He called it as it was. Possible yellow card. If Milner wasn't on his first yellow card, maybe you say that's a yellow card there. But then again, do you say was the collision with Foden outside the box. Was that a potential yellow card or a red card or even a penalty in that instance there? Because that you could question that might be more of a case of him getting a yellow card, in which case he would have been sent long ago in that first half. So yeah, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Foul, yes. Yellow card, I didn't think about it until George pointed out that Henderson gets to him first, and maybe that's what changes his decision on to cut back inside and go through Milner. But it's done, and that it is what it is now, man. You move on.
Well, guys, it's going to be a huge week for the Red Sea podcast. As our Capitan, Il Capitan, Tiago's father, TF89 says, we've got a huge week coming up. Triple header with the Red Men. Tuesday, we've got the Salah the Greatest show. Wednesday, the Strikers tiers list. And Thursday, we've got Strikers tier list part 2. So please make sure that you tune into the Red Sea podcast this week. But this has been the match debate. Thank you so much for joining me, Jimmy, Peter, and Nick. It was Liverpool 2, Manchester City 2, but we are second in the league. We're still invincible as it stands, and we've got Atletico Madrid after the international break with the Champions League, something to look forward to there. And then we've got those stupid Manx coming up. Obviously, Watford's going to be first, but we've got those stupid Manx coming up, and Atletico Madrid. We've got a lot to look forward to. I think that the Reds are in great shape. I like the look of the Reds, and hopefully you guys too. Anyway, see you guys later. Until next time, cheers.